Good afternoon to one and all. And today class I'm going to explain about how to compute the synthesized attributes and how to compute the inherited attributes, and then how to represent the dependency graph, and then how to uh, write the evolution orders in the tree representation. And then finally I will conclude this session with the concept abstract syntax trees, construction of abstract syntax trees. And in the last class I already explained you the definitions of what the synthesized attribute and the inherited attributes is, and we're having the two ways of representing and semantic rules. In those two ways, the first way is an syntax directed definition, and in that syntax directed definition we are learning about an attributes. And here the attributes are of two types. One is an synthesized and the another one is an inherited. And I already explained the definitions of the synthesized and inherited attributes with an example in the last class. And now in this class, let us see how to compute the synthesized attributes with an example. Computation of the synthesized attributes with an examples. See, all of you see the slide here that I shared to you all, and the slide consisting of the table, where the table is having two columns. In first column it is in productions, that means the productions from the given grammar, and the second column is about an semantic rules or semantic actions. And here the syntax directed definition can be written for the grammar by using the semantic actions for each and every production. And once you all of you see what the non-terminals that we are having from the given grammar, for the non-terminals like L, E, T, F, right? The values can be obtained using the attribute VAL. Once you see the semantic rules, there we define the attributes dot VAL. We define an attribute, it is an dot VAL. What it means is, for the non-terminals like LETF, in the grammar we're having LETF, the values can be obtained using the attribute VAL. And here what the VAL means, a VAL is an attribute, and the semantic rules is computing the value of the VAL. And finally, what the token that we're going to generate here, see the seventh rule, rule number 7, f tends to digit. What it means is the token digit has synthesized attribute lexval. See in the semantic rule, f dot val is equal to digit dot lexval. What it means is whose value can be obtained from the lexical analyzers, not from the parsers. Here the values are obtained from the lexical analyzers. And once seen rule number 1, L tends to En, where n is a constant and L tends to E. That means L dot val is equal to E dot val. There we write an semantic action. The corresponding the semantic action for the corresponding rule, L dot val is equal to E dot val. What it means is, and here the starting symbol of the given grammar is L, right? L is the start symbol, and this rule is to print the final answer of the expression. Up to that we need to process the synthesized attribute. Up to that we need to process the synthesized attribute. And here you all of you make a note of this. We are having some important points in this syntax directed definition. Terminals have the synthesized attributes only. The terminals have the synthesized attributes only. That means there is no definition of the terminal, and here the synthesized attributes are quite often used in syntax directed definitions. And so the syntax directed definition uses only the synthesized attributes, and we are naming that attribute, it is an S attribute. Make a note of this, it is an S attribute. What it means is, in a parse tree, here our main aim is to represent an parse tree. It may be an annotated parse tree, or it's just an parse tree, whatever it may be. In a parse tree, at each node the semantic rule is evaluated for annotating the S attribute definition, right? Or decorating, we can call it as. And that means after computing the evaluation process, and we're defining the S attribute, and this process is in bottom up fashion. That means from leaves to root we need to process the S attribute in an bottom up fashion, that is leaves to root. We all know how to implement the bottom up parser, that means taking the leaves and generating the root, right? And make a note of this, here we are implementing an bottom up parser. That means the processing should be done in a bottom up fashion. And we're having some following steps to be followed for the computation of the S attribute definition. and what the steps are. And step number 1, first initially we need to write the syntax directed definition using an appropriate semantic action for the corresponding production rule of the given grammar. Whatever you are seeing in the slide in the form of the table, that is the step number 1. It was already implemented. That means for the corresponding production rule we need to write an semantic action. We need to write a semantic action for the corresponding production rule in the given grammar, right? It is step number 1. What is step number 2? What is step number 2? And the step number 2 is the annotated parse tree is generated for an input string, and the attribute values are computed. Make a note of this. This is step number 2. The annotated parse tree is generated and attribute values are computed. That means the computation is done in a bottom up manner. And here we're starting from the leaves and ending to the root. And what the third step here to be followed is, the value obtained at the root node is supposed to be the final output. And what the root node of the given grammar? From the given grammar, the root node is L. The starting symbol of the given grammar is an L, right? And here from the annotated parse tree, and the value is obtained at the root node. That means after performing the overall computations from leaves to root, there the value obtained is a 19. That means that value 19 is obtained to the root node L dot val, and what it means is it is supposed to be the final output. That means after getting the root node, then there is no more steps to be processed here. We need to terminate. That means how we are calling that is the semantic action associated with L. The semantic action associated with this, here we are having L dot val is equal to E dot val. That means what it means is print the result at L dot val. Whatever the value that I computed for E dot val, that is obtained to the L dot val. And what the meaning of that is, to print the result L dot val. Hence the value, the output will be 19 here, and the S attributed definition can be computed by a bottom up fashion or using an post order traversal. Make a note of this here. I explained two most important points. One is processing or doing and parsing in a bottom up fashion, and here or otherwise we can use a post order traversal. These are the two most important points when we are processing the parse tree representation. And is it clear now with an example how to compute the synthesized attributes? Finally, we are having three most important steps to be followed, and by following those three important steps, finally the computation was completed for the synthesized attribute. That means the synthesized or the S attribute definition can be computed just by parsing in a bottom up fashion, or you can also use an post order traversal. And this is about an synthesized attribute, the computation of an synthesized attribute. Next, now it is about to learn how to compute. Let's see how to compute the inherited attribute. As we all know the definition of the inherited attributes, right? What the definition of the inherited attribute is, we are computing the value of A based on the parent or the siblings, based on the computation values of the parent or the siblings. That means in terminology, how I am defining this inherited attribute means the value of inherited attribute at a node in a parse tree is defined using the attribute values at the parent or siblings, isn't it? It's the definition of what the inherited attribute is. Now it is clear. And after knowing the definition of inherited attribute, now we'll see how the computation takes place here. How to compute the inherited attributes. And once all of you see the example, see the grammar, and where the grammar consisting of the rules. And here what we need to do is we need to annotate the parse tree for the computation of the inherited attributes for the given string, or for the given grammar. And what the string is, in the next example we're having, in the further slide we're having what the input string is. Here we're having an input string real id1 comma id2 comma id3, right? And for this input string, we are computing an inherited attributes. Annotated parse tree for the inherited attributes, right? And once see all the productions here, and what the string I need to generate here, real id1 comma id2 comma id3. What it means is we have to distribute the data type here. We have to distribute the data type, and int is an data type here, and int to all the identifiers, because in the input string we are having id. That means if you take the data type like an integer, then we can use the entry like an identifier entry, and int to all the identifiers. For example, if you also can use in the identifiers as an a, b and c. id1 is an a, id2 is an b, and id3 is an c, such that what it is, a becomes an integer and b becomes an integer and c also becomes an integer. That's why I'm choosing an identifiers here. I'm choosing an identifiers, and the data type I'm choosing here, it is an integer data type. And what the following steps to be followed for construction of these inherited attributes means, the same steps whatever we done at the synthesized attribute, same steps that we are following here. And what the step number 1 here, also we're constructing the syntax directed definition using the semantic actions for the corresponding production rules. And the second step is annotate the parse tree. Here we're annotating the parse tree, that means generating the parse tree with inherited attributes by processing in an top-down fashion. Make a note of this. To compare the synthesized and inherited attributes, these are the differences between the synthesized and the inherited. And here the processing is in a top-down fashion, and there in synthesized the processing is in a bottom-up fashion. There we use an post-order traversal. Here we are using an pre-order traversals. Make a note of this. Here we are using an pre-order traversals. Once all of you see the example and what the example is, and here it is an example of a syntax directed definition for the grammar. D tends to TL, T tends to int, T tends to real, L tends to L1 comma ID, L tends to ID. And these are the corresponding semantic actions for each and every rule. See here, L dot in is equal to T dot type. What it mean? Why we are defining the attributes in the form of in type like that? Because here I am using the attribute as an type attribute. What it mean? It may be a type. If basically the types are a lexical values. Types are from the lexical values. That means the values obtained as an int or float or char or w. I'm taking in such a way that, because here my attribute is an type attribute. In a last previous example, that is in synthesized attribute, there my attribute is an value, right? So why? Because from the digit is from the, we taken from the lexical analyzers. From the digit we are defining the attribute name, it is an val. And here the value of L nodes is first obtained from the T dot type. That is, T dot type is a sibling here. This is a sibling to the L dot in, right? So what it means is the value of L nodes is first obtained from the T dot type siblings. And here the T dot type is basically a lexical value. It may be obtained as an int or a float or a char or a double or anything we can take it taken here. But as per from the given production rules, from the given grammar, we need to choose which data type it is. Either it may be an integer data type or double or char or float, like that. And then the L nodes give the type of the identifiers ID1, ID2 and ID3, and which type of an identifier it is. For example, I am taking it as an A, B and C, A, B, C. And with these L nodes, this L node gives the type of the identifiers. And the computation of type, this dot type, the computation of the type is done in a top-down manner. Make a note of this. In inherited attributes, we are performing or processing in a top-down manner. That means here we are using an pre-order traversals and using a function like an add type. See here we are having an add type or enter type, and in some textbooks it may be an enter type, and in some textbooks it may be an add type. The both functions are same. Writing of the functions is same, but using the function like an add type or enter type, the type of identifiers, see here, id dot entry comma l dot in. What it means is the type of identifiers id1, id2, id3 is inserted in the symbol table at corresponding id dot entry. At corresponding id dot entry, what it means is t dot type is assigned to an l dot in, right? And the whatever the type that we are assigning here, that is assigned, that is associated with an l dot in. And here I'm using that, in the function add type of id dot entry comma l dot in. And in the next slide, I need to generate an annotated parse tree. For the annotated parse tree, I need to generate an input string like an real id1 comma id2 comma id3, right? So for that I am using these entries, these identifier entries. What it means is identifiers, it may be an id1, id2, id3, or directly we can take it as in variables like an abc is inserted in the symbol table at the corresponding id dot entry. And here the id dot entry, what the meaning of this id dot entry is the address of the corresponding identifier in the symbol table. Make a note of this. Is the address of the corresponding identifier in the symbol table. That's why we are using add type or enter type with an id dot entry along with the node l dot in. And this is an example for the inherited attributes. See how the tree structure, annotated parse tree structure was represented. And here we are processing in a top-down approach. That means from root to leaves. As usual process of derivation, how we are deriving the input string from root node to the leaves, as same process we are implementing here. Same process we are implementing here, but we are for the representation we are taking the input from the semantic rules. Where to represent an annotated parse tree, we are taking the input from the semantic rules. That means the appropriate rules are chosen here and we substitute in the place of the particular nodes, and then finally we are generating the input string real id1 comma id2 comma id3, right? Is it clear now? That means this is the common approach, top down approach. We all know how to represent an top down approach. That means by taking an starting symbol, starting with the starting symbol of the given grammar, and for the input string how to generate, that means here we're implementing a leftmost derivation, isn't it? So this thing we already known in the last classes. We already learned about the concept of the top down parsing, and there itself with an example we see how the parsing is to be done in a top down approach. And as usual, the bottom up approach was is also the bottom up approach is also known. But what the thing here and there is, there just we are implementing the parsing and tree without any attributes and without any values. But here with the attributes, with associating with the attributes and obtained with an values, we are performing some computations, and then finally we are processing the bottom up tree, bottom up parse tree. That means by applying the bottom up parsing technique, not at all the overall techniques, just the working principle of the, just applying the working principle of the bottom up parsing, just we are implementing in a synthesized analysis. And here applying and working principle of, that is implementing and working principle of the top down approach, here we are implementing or processing the inherited attributes like this. That means we are generating the annotated parse tree for the inherited attributes in such a way, just by using a top down approach in an and also by using a pre-order traversal. There in synthesized, it is in bottom up approach, that is in bottom up fashion, and we used an post order traversal. Make a note of this. These are the two most important points while comparing the synthesized and the inherited attributes. And with this, the computation of the inherited attribute was completed. And next, what we need to learn, what the other concept we need to know. And this is about an the annotated parse tree with the dependency graph and along with the evolution order. This I will explain with the concept of the evolution order and the dependency graph. And what the next thing is, here I am having another example for inherited attributes. And if you see the grammar, once see the grammar and see how the syntax directed definitions are written for this. That means one see the semantic rules here. One see the semantic rules. Again, this digit is from the value obtained from the lexical analyzer. And when we are writing the semantic actions for the corresponding production rules, see the difference here. The input we're associating, that means whatever the action that we're performing here is with the combination of both the inherited and the synthesized, is the combination of both the inherited and the synthesized. That means the grammar is for the inherited attributes and the implementing part is for the both inherited and the synthesized. What it means is, see here, for only the f and t we are using an vals. That means here finally f is giving a rule, they are defining a production rule digit. Digit is an lexical val from the lexical analyzer. That means here we need to use an attribute like an val attributes, val, right? And for the attribute val, to which nodes we need to assign, the attribute val. Only for the nodes like an t and f we are going to assign these vals. Only for the nodes t and f we are assigning the attribute val. Why? Because for t dash or t1 dash we are assigning the inherited attribute and the synthesized attribute. See here, inherited attribute and the synthesized attribute. You all know what the definition of the inheritance is. Inheritance property, we are calling it as an inheritance and inheritance. And if you are well understand in an OOAD, there at the representations of the UML diagrams, we will use a relation like an inheritance relation. Once you recall that, what the inheritance relation means, what is an inheritance property means. What it means is I am inheriting the properties from my parent. That means as I am a child, I am inheriting some properties from my parent. So what it is, I'm having some common features between the parent node and the child node. That means inheritance. We are calling the name it as an inheritance. Hierarchical structure. We are also call it as an hierarchical structure. And here the T dash inherits the value associated with an node F, right? And T dot val is, yeah, the T dot val is assigned to an T dash or T dash dot synthesize. And here the action that I performed, whatever the semantic action that I performed for this production rule is associated with three attributes. One is with an inherited attribute, and second one is a synthesized attribute, and the third one is a type of an attribute, it is an val, right? So in the second rule also I am writing here. What it means, for only the f and t I am giving an attribute name val, but the remaining I am defining whether it may be an inherited or whether it may be an synthesized, right? What it means here, star f t1 dash, what it is, if t1 dash is multiplied with the value of f dot val, that the output is computed with an, the computed value is assigned with an t dash. What it means is, here the t dash is inheriting the properties, that means is same inheriting the properties of the computation that we done at the right hand side of the production rule, right? So finally this t1 dash is equal to t1 dot synthesized. Is it clear now? And see, t dash dot epsilon, here epsilon means epsilon null, that's why t dash is and t dash here. Both here at nullable we are using an inheritance property, and at the left hand side we are using a synthesized attribute. And f is in dot val, f is having its own attribute dot val, so f dot val is an digit dot lex val, right? And for this semantic actions we are having an annotated tree representation for the input 3 into 5, for the input 3 into 5. See, again here the processing is done in a bottom up fashion. That means here we are using the post order traversals. And what the starting node here, t, starting node starting symbol of the given grammar is an T. So what I need an value that should be obtained to the root node T. Then only I will terminate the process. Right? Is it clear now? Is it clear? These are the semantic, these all are the semantic rules. F dot val, T dash dot inherited, and T dash dot synthesis. All these are the from the semantic rules, not from the direct productions, not from direct productions. After writing the semantic rules for the productions, then we are considering these rules to represent an annotated parse tree. And this is the representation of the annotated parse tree for 3 into 5. Right. And now with this, I clearly understand how initially how to compute the synthesized and then how to compute the inherited attributes and then combining the both inherited and synthesized attributes. This is an example for that, combining the synthesized and inherited attributes. And then, and this is another example. And then what the next concept is, evolution order of the SDDs. Evolution order. How to give an evolution order for the attributes. That means here where first we need to know what the dependency graph is, how to draw the dependency graph. And after knowing the dependency graph, then only this graph is acting as a tool for determining the evolution order for the attribute instances in a given parse tree. That means the annotated parse tree shows the values of the attributes, and this dependency graph helps to determine how these values can be computed. Is it clear now? And now, what is a dependency graph? By knowing the definition of or the dependency graph, then I will explain with example. What is dependency graph? It is a directed graph. Make a note, it is a directed graph. And that represents the interdependencies between the synthesized and the inherited at the nodes in the parse tree. See here, we're having an example. E tends to E1 plus T. Right? The attributes associated with these nodes are dot val. Here, at the semantic action, what the attribute I am representing here, it is a dot val. Why? Because to here I am having an operator like n plus. What it means? If I use an values at the place of these two nodes, then some computation will be performed. That output is assigned to the root node E, right? So for that I am defining the attribute, it is an val, dot val attribute. And see here I am having an annotated tree representation. The dotted representation is in whatever the tree parse tree representation, the dotted is an parse tree representation. The dotted line is an parse tree representation. And see here with the direction line, it is an dependency graph representation. It is a dependency graph representation. What the definition is, it is a directed graph. Yes, it is a directed graph, right? What it represents? It represents the interdependencies between the synthesized and the inherited attributes at the nodes, right? At the nodes. See here, E1, T. These are the two interdependencies at the nodes in the parse tree is called as a dependency graph. And with a simple example, I will explain this. For example, we are having a rule like x tends to yz. Both x, y, z are the variables here. Just assume that x tends to yz is an example. And I need to perform the semantic action for this production rule. And how I am performing this semantic action? Just by giving the attribute. When I am writing the semantic actions means what I am doing, just I am defining the attributes at each and every node, right? So here I am having a function to be performed. What the function? X tends to yz, right? And after writing the semantic action, the x may be an val or any type of an attribute associating with any type of an attribute. What I need is, after computing the y and z, whatever the value that was obtained there, that should be assigned to an x, right? Is it clear? Then here the x becomes an synthesized attribute. X becomes an synthesized attribute. And this x depends on y and z, because after computation only I will get an value. So this value is obtained, whatever the value that I am getting after computation of y and z, that value is obtained to the x. That means I am assigning this value, computed value from the y and z, and that is assigned to the x. What it means is always this x, the left hand side of the variable, is acting as a synthesized attribute, and always it depends on the right hand side of the production rules. Is it clear now? Always it depends on the right hand side of the production rules. And let's see the example, direct example. And this is an example annotated parse tree example, and this is an direct dependency graph along with the evaluation order. Again, I'm not repeating the evaluation order here, only I'm explaining along with the dependency graph. Make a note, whatever the directed path is there in the tree structure, that means here we're having a directed path representations. It is a directed graph. This shows the dependency graph, and the dotted line is an original annotated parse tree representation. That means we taken from the annotated parse tree representation. And in this tree representation, we are showing the dependencies between the synthesized and the inherited, and along with by giving an evaluation order. Make it clear. See, initially the first evaluation order is digit, right? This is an evaluation order number 1, and then it is an evaluation number order 2. Once you see this tree structure, this annotated parse tree, then you will get clear understanding about this. The directed path shows the dependency graph. The directed representation, the directed arrow shows that it is a dependency graph. What it means is, and which variable, that is which node is depending on which node, and how we are computing the values from those, and which is an inherited attribute and which is a synthesized attribute. Here I will make it clear by showing with an example. This is evaluation order number 1. Why? Because I am performing or processing in a bottom up approach, that is bottom up parsing from leaves to root, isn't it? So first I need to start at the leaf level, start from the leaves level, then I need to reach at the root level. So this is evaluation order 1. From this, what the evaluation order 2 is, again here we're having a digit, right? And this is 1 and 2. And what the 3 is, this 1 is assigned to a node F. So this is the third evaluation. This digit is assigned to an F, right? So this is a third evaluation order. And what the fourth one is, see here, this digit is assigned to an F, and this is a fourth evaluation order. And what the fifth one is, whatever the value that I computed for the node F, and it is inherited to the T dash, where this F and T dash are the siblings here. F and T dash are the siblings here. That means here I am performing an inherited attribute, and this is the fifth evaluation. And see here after assigning this digit to the node F, and this is inherited to the T dash. This node is the value of this node is inherited to the T dash. What it means is, these two F and T dash are the siblings here. So this is the fourth evaluation. From the fourth evaluation order, this is the sixth evaluation. Along with the 5. What it means is, whatever I am computing here, the value is assigned to the T dash, right? So, and the sixth evaluation order is computed from the 5 and the 4. That means it is acting as a parent, and this is acting as a sibling, right? And if you recall what the definition of the inherited attribute is, the value is computed from the parent or from the siblings, and here we are implementing that, right? And this is an 6, and whatever the value that I get here, that I computed here, and that is assigned to an T dash, and that is the seventh evaluation order. Now the inherited attribute is completed. Now I am performing the synthesized attribute. This synthesized attribute means what? And the parent is taking the value from the childs and computed values from the childs, isn't it? And this is a child node. Here I computed the value, and this is obtained to the parent node T dash, right? and this is an eighth computation, eighth evolution order. And here this is a child for the parent t, right? And whatever the value that I computed here, this is obtained to the root node t. That means here the evolution order is an 8, and finally the root node or the starting symbol of the given grammar is an t, and there the value is obtained, and so the process is terminated with the evolution number 9. Is it clear now? This is nothing but a dependency graph. This is nothing but a dependency graph by showing within direction path. And the 1, 2, 3 are the evolution orders. 1, 2, 3 are the evolution orders. By differentiating or by knowing with the inherited attributes and the synthesized attributes. And these evolution orders are getting from the both inherited attributes and the synthesized attributes. Is it clear now? This is nothing but both the dependency graph example and also an evolution order example, right? And what the next concept is about topological sort. And what, first you need to know what the topological sort means. If an ordering embeds a directed graph into a linear order, then that can be called it as a topological graph or topological sort. What it means is if the graph consisting of any cycles, then such type of graphs cannot be called it as an topological graphs. If you know the concept like an DAGs does not comes under the topological sorts. And for example, dependency graph here, directed acyclic graphs, we are having the cyclic representations in the tree structures. Those are not called, we don't call them as in topological sorts. So the linear order graphs or directed graphs into a linear order, those are called it as an topological sorts of the graphs. It's enough to know what the topological sort is and what we are calling them as, how we are defining the topological sort, and which does not comes under the topological sorts. If you know these two things, it's enough here. And what the semantic rules with the control side effects. Here we're having the control side effects. One is to permit the incidental side effect that do not disturb the attribute evaluation. And then the next one is an whatever the restrictions that are allowable for the evaluation orders. The same translation is produced for any allowable orders, right? So we need to use the same restrictions for evaluating any type of an translation orders. These are the two important side effects that we are having for the semantic rules. That's why we are calling them as semantic rules with controlled side effects. And this is the most important concept, where it is the last concept under syntax directed definition. What the name of this concept is an abstract syntax trees. That means here we are constructing the syntax trees. First, initially we need to know what the difference between the parse tree representation and the syntax tree representation. Make a note. In parse tree, the internal nodes and the external nodes, we are having both internal nodes and the external nodes, right? And in both the condition, the external nodes are the leaves. In both the condition, the external nodes are the leaves. But while considering as an internal nodes, there in parse trees, the internal nodes should be an variables. That means a non-terminals. We are calling them as a nodes. While coming to the syntax tree representation, the internal nodes are to be an operators. That means here we are drawing the tree structure for the operators and the operands at syntax trees. Make a note of this. And for the parse trees, we are considering the nodes with the operators. But here we are considering the operands with an operators. Make a difference. And why the syntax trees are useful? These are useful for programming constructs, programming language constructs like an expressions and the statements. And here each node of the syntax tree represents a construct, and the children of the node represent the meaningful component of the construct. And see, we're having an example here to represent an expression like an E1 plus E2 has a label plus and two children. That means whatever the operator we're having between the operands, that means these are the two pointers. One is a left pointer and one is a right pointer. And in between we're having an operator, right? This can be called as a label. and the two children representing the sub expressions of E1 and E2, right? And with the example, I'll clearly make you understand how to draw the syntax trees, or how to represent on syntax trees, and how to write the semantic actions for the syntax tree construction. And these are the some of the main important points that we need to know initially before constructing the syntax trees. What are those means? The syntax tree is an abstract representation of the language constructs, as I already explained now. And here the trees are used to write the translation routines using the syntax directed definitions. And now we're to construct a syntax tree for any type of an expression, we need to know how to obtain the translation routines. How to obtain the translation routines? Make translation routines. That means translation of an expression into an postfix. First, what we need to do is, if you want to construct the syntax tree for any type of an expression, the step number 1 is you need to convert the given expression from infix to postfix. You all know, I think so, how to convert from infix to postfix. And then by making use of the functions, that means if now I want to construct the syntax tree for an expression, means I want to translate perform the translation of the expression by implementing into an postfix, right? That means here I need to make use of some functions. First, initially we need to know what those functions are. See here, with an example I will explain this. And what the functions are means, here the nodes for each operator and the operand is created. This is an operator and this is the operands. E1 and T are the operands, and plus is an operator here. And each node can be, the nodes E1, T, each node can be implemented as a record with multiple fields. For only the node E, I'm having multiple fields. See, E1 plus T, E1 minus T, T, or directly it is an T. And by using the functions and to implement the translations for the given expressions, for constructing the syntax trees, I am using some functions. What those functions means, here I am having 3 functions mainly. One for make node, you can use it as a make node or a new node, whatever it may be. You can use mk, small mk, or new, whatever it may be. In some textbooks it is mk, here it is a new. Make node of, for example, I'm having a rule like this. For this rule, at the right hand side I need to compute with the operator plus along with the operands E1 and T, right? So if we are having such type of rules, how to create a function means, make node of, plus is a label, here plus is a label, and E1 dot node is an, here it is an attribute, node attribute. E1 dot node is an pointer number 1, it is left pointer. T dot node is an right pointer. So in such a way we need to create a function for the rule like this, right? And see, go for the next rule, E1 minus T. Here the label is a minus, and we're having 2 pointers, right? This is a left pointer and this is a right pointer. And initially when we're writing the semantic actions, compulsory we need to define the attribute of the nodes. We need to define the attribute of the nodes. Please don't forget that. That's why I'm writing like this. E dot node. Node is an attribute here. Node E node. Node is acting as is defined as an attribute here. So minus is an label here, and the left pointer is an E1 and the right pointer is an T. So I'm writing a function like this. I'm creating a function like this. Make node of, or new node of, minus comma E1 dot node comma T dot node. What it means is, if you are writing like this, what the function means this function creates a node with the field operators. Here, if we are having the rules like this, to write a function for such type of rules, we are having 3 fields. And one is for the operator, and the others are the 2 pointers. One is in left and the next one is in right. And E tends to T, and whatever the value that was obtained for the T is assigned to the E, or E, if you computed a value for the E, it is assigned to the T. And here also no need to write the parenthesis here, eliminate the parenthesis and directly write here T tends to E tends to E, whatever it may be, same the rule we are applying here. And while coming to here T tends to ID, where ID is in terminal here, make a note. If you are having a production like this, how to write the syntax rule function, how to write the syntax rule function, make leaf of. Leaf is an terminals, node is for the variables. That is for the non-terminals we are representing nodes, for the terminals we are representing the leaves. Is it clear? That means, and here what the terminal it is id, and for writing such type or creating such type of functions, here for the terminals we are having two fields, for the non-terminals we are having three fields, for the terminals we are having two fields. And what this function creates means an identifier node with label id, this is, and a pointer to the symbol table is given by id dot entry. It is a pointer to the symbol table and it is an label id. Is it clear? For example, you are having another rule like t tends to num. Again, num is an number constant. So if you are having such type of end rules, and for that type, this is also a leaf because number is also in terminal here. That is an, it does not comes under the terminal or it does not comes under the non-terminal. Directly we are writing the number itself. So again, make leaf of. Only for the non-terminals we need to use make node of. And here make leaf of or new leaf of. And what it is here? Num, right? And it creates the node for the number with label num, and val is for the value of that number. Num dot val, the value. Val is for the value of that number. Is it clear now how to write the semantic rules for the syntax construction of the syntax trees? See, get the difference. Writing of the semantic actions for the synthesized and for the inherited are differ. And here comparing with those two with the abstract syntax tree, it is totally differ. Here we are creating some functions. These are all the predefined functions. We are not writing in our own way, right? If you want to construct the syntax tree, first you need to write the semantic actions by using a function like this. Now is it clear what the first thing that we need to do to construct a syntax tree means? First, initially we need to convert the given expression from infix to postfix. Then we need to make use of all these functions. It may be a make node or make leaf for the identifier or make leaf for the number. Then the sequence of function calls is given. The sequence of function calls is given like this. Like for example, it is in P1, it is in P2, right? And P1, again P1 is equal to T dot node and P1 is equal to T dot node. And it is another pointer. We are using the numbers, sequence numbers with the pointers P1, P2, P3. When we need to use means not at in semantic rules, If we are having an expression like, for example, x into x plus y. See, these are the x plus y minus z. Like that we are having an expression. X plus y minus, it should be a meaningful input string. That we should not take and wrong input strings, and we should not construct the abstract syntax trees. Should be an meaningful, and it should generated from the given grammar. That's why I am checking here. That means id1, id t is deriving an id, right? So for example, if I take like x plus y minus z is the given expression, and if it is in the form of an infix, now I need to convert it into an postfix. Then after converting it into an postfix, I need to write symbols, whatever the symbols I'm having in the expression, by putting an heading like in production, symbol. In that symbol, I need to write whatever the symbols I'm having. And then I need to perform the operation just by following these semantic rules. Then after the sequence of function calls, then finally representation of the syntax tree. Here, the representation of the syntax tree with the boxes. What the boxes means, these are the, it is a make node because plus is a label, right? We're having two columns, three fields means it is a make node. It is two fields means it is a make identifier. Here also we're having make num. That means only with the representation of the operators and the operands we need to represent on syntax tree. With the operators, this is a directed graph showing that dependency, no need to follow all these directed, that is dotted representations. This is an actual tree representation. From that we are representing an, this is an actual parse tree representation. From that we are representing an syntax tree, and my syntax tree consisting of only the operators and the operands, where the operators are the internal nodes and the operands are the external nodes. See, id minus num plus id, that means a minus 4 plus c, that the expression I need to generate here. So where only the representation with this box, see here we're having box representations, this part is only for the syntax tree construction, and this is an original parse tree construction, just to show the difference between the parse tree and the syntax tree. And I'm showing this slide to you, this example to you. And what the difference is, in the both tree structures, what we are generating, we are generating an leaves, right? We are generating an leaves. But here in the parse tree, we are generating an identifiers along with the numbers or the number constants or any type of an variables. But here the internal nodes are the non-terminals. Here the internal nodes are the non-terminals. But here the internal nodes are the operators. Make a difference. Make a note of this. Just get the difference between the parse tree representation and the syntax tree. If the tree consisting of the operators and the operands, then we need to define the tree as an syntax tree. And if the tree consisting of like this, that means the internal nodes, the child nodes, and the parent nodes and the root nodes are the non-terminals, then we can define that such type of a tree is an parse tree. If it is having the if the nodes are associated with the attributes along with the values, means it is an annotated parse tree, right? Is it clear now? And what is an annotated parse tree representation, and how it looks like, and how the parse tree representation looks like, and then finally the syntax tree representation looks like. And in single example I make you understand the difference between in the tree structures, tree representations. This is a parse tree representation, this is a syntax tree representation. And with this concept, with this construction of the syntax tree, the concept of syntax directed definition is completed. In the next class I'm going to explain the second way of representing the semantic rules, that is an syntax directed translation schema.